You got this. We had David Gilmour in our show today. That's impressive.
It is.
Outstanding.
Oh, now I can switch my camera. See, I was using my iPhone camera. Now I can switch to my regular camera.
There you go. And then, we got some other loser on the show here who's got Sacre Coeur in the background, just making us all jealous. Oh, my gosh. That's incredible.
Yeah.
We're pro level today.
Yeah, wow. I'm actually in vacation, but so I have free time. So I said, hey, why not go to IoT Coffee Talk? And
why not?
Because I'm in the right time zone. This is not coffee I'm drinking.
Yes, I love it. Oh my God, are you having a great time in Paris?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was in Finland last week.
Yeah,
because I went. I think I mentioned you guys, but I went to a hacker conference for a talk. It is my definition of vacation, and
yeah,
and I'm spending a week in Paris to meet with old friends. I met with a friend who is a deputy CIO at Dassault System now. So we were at engineering school together. So yeah, and we are comparing our gray hair now.
Yeah. Well. I saw you. I was following you on Instagram, and you had some good pictures. Were you up in Lille?
The restaurant. You know that restaurant?
Oh, I thought you were in no, I don't know the restaurant. I know the town. I've been to Lille.
No. Lille. Actually, it's a different spelling. It's like the island. It's a little restaurant. No, I'm just saying in Paris this time. So I did Helsinki and Paris. That's
excellent.
Nice.
That's it.
Well, it's raining here in Bellevue, so nothing very exciting going on.
Yeah.
It's raining in Paris as well. So, and by the way, hey, talking about global warming and climate change, I had rain in Helsinki in February. You can imagine that. It should be snow, not rain. Yeah.
Kind of weird. It's been kind of warm, hasn't it, Pete, up here in the Northwest?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get much winter going on here. I mean, 40s next week, and that's about it. I think it hit below freezing like 1 week out of this.
Yeah.
That's about it.
mean, when you look over at the mountains, it's kind of scary because there's not a lot of snow up there.
Not a lot of snow.
And for all you people who care about water and agriculture, snowpack is how we save up water during the winter that then flows in the spring and summer to make all the magic happen.
Hydropower.
Exactly. Hydropower. Many rivers that you think just come from magical places actually come from snowpack melting. Yes. And if it rains all winter, while it's green and everything here, there won't be any store of water, of saved up water for the rest of the year, which will then inadvertently lead to drought, which seems strange in the moment, but not good.
Good.
I remember a few years ago, like when, obviously California is getting slammed now by atmospheric rivers and LA is underwater. But in past years, they talk about the wintertime, like there's very, very low snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountains. which has a devastating impact in agriculture.
By the way, this is a cool book, Termination Shock. If you've ever read Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, he's kind of famous for that. Oh. He wrote this a few years ago. It's a pretty thick one, but it's a cool novel about climate. It takes place about 30 or 40 years in the future, kind of near future.
Yeah.
And they do some, I won't spoil it, but they do some sort of climate engineering, kind of try to fix things. And there's lots of interesting political, personal things going on. So pretty cool book if you're into like climate sci-fi. Is that a thing? I don't know.
Well, I think we've had climate sci-fi inadvertently in all kinds of books and movies in the past, and sometimes we didn't realize that that's what it was, or we didn't think about it. It wasn't political at the time. I remember not long ago rewatching on TV, not Andromeda Strain, Soylent Green.
Soylent Green, yeah.
And while the theme of the movie is obviously about people and little green wafers, if you'll recognize it's very hot. The movie was made in like the early 70s, and yet it was burning hot, and there was no food, and I don't know if they overtly were trying to predict some kind of heated climate or not. Maybe. Yeah.
So in the 70s, there was a lot of environmentalism. I remember one of the Planet of the Apes movies had a lot of environmental overtones to it.
Yeah.
Not to get too far off topic, but
I don't even know what the topic is. So
I don't know. It's not possible to get off topic. We haven't really gotten one yet. But. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Look.
Hello.
What?
The blue. We got blue, black.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't travel with my IoT Coffee Talk T-shirt for now. So I'm just a white T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's
So how are things in Portlandia?
Typical weather. It'll be overcast till April, and the sun comes up. Yes, pretty much. But Portland is good, man. Portland is good. Beautiful as always. The PNW.
The PNW. Yeah,
I played that kind of slow dirge song. Wish You Were Here this morning because I was kind of mourning the whole Azure IoT Central.
How I wish.
Long live Azure IoT Central. Apparently, I'm not sure what's going on there, but
it's not like these IoT platforms ever leave their users hanging. I mean, this never ever happens.
Right.
So there was so for the readers that are not familiar, and I encourage you to do your own research. But there was a kind of a system message that came out saying like Azure IoT Central was going to get retired, and this is the last day you could create some resources. Blah blah. Some system message came out that created a firestorm out there in the internet tubes, and then there was a blog post by Microsoft, I think from Cam Vedbrad, who said the message was not accurate, and we're supporting our customers and blah blah. That came out like a couple of days ago, but there was this whole meta discussion around, like David, you were saying, platforms taking dependencies on platforms from companies, and hyperscalers have a habit of putting out all kinds of cool stacks and getting people very excited about them, and then realizing, well, actually, we're kind of in the cloud business, and then maybe we don't want to put any more effort into it. So it's unclear. It sounds like it's still being kept alive from Microsoft. Although it's interesting, if you read the blog post, they didn't say Azure IoT Central. Basically, they just said the message was inaccurate. Didn't say how it was inaccurate. They just said it was inaccurate. So the date could be slightly off, could be off by 2 days, or it could be completely wrong. We don't know, but they just said the message was inaccurate. So,
well, what's is that if you've worked in any company that has PR or internal communications, it is very typical. Let's just say before earnings, right? Now they might not know whether earnings are good or bad, but there's going to be a draft. Earnings were amazing, and bullet point, or inflation is killing us. So there has to be some validity to what was in the original leaked message.
Sure.
Because someone was drafting it.
Someone wrote it and someone sent it, so there must have been something behind it.
So, it's like, just come clean for the users. Because at the end of the day, luckily, we forget quickly, but, you have all these deployments. Let's just let the community know what the real deal is. And in the meantime, folks, diversify. You know, like I think for once you experience something like this, you just stop putting the majority of your load on one piece of infrastructure. Like it's,
Right.
I know it sounds easy, you know, one throat to choke, you know, one infrastructure to manage,
build to
but
pay.
then this happens.
Yeah. Well, and this is why things are going to multi-cloud, multi-edge, because people need to hedge their bets. And,
Yeah.
you know, and then there's all this thing where platform companies always try to go up the stack, you know, to get more functionality and margin and kind of squeeze out their partners. I'm thinking of IoT Connect from Avnet and Cumulocity and these other folks that have perfectly valid, you know, SaaS platforms for IoT, and then after they go in there and sort of, you know, chew up their partners' markets, then they decide to retire it, and
Everybody dies.
well, everyone dies at the end.
Yes.
Well, I haven't looked for into the Microsoft stack for a while. So maybe because I saw the news while I was traveling and not necessarily paying too much attention. But does that mean they're also retiring their digital twin modeling language, or is it moving somewhere else? So, no, it's just the basic infrastructure they're changing, right?
Well, it was the IoT Central offering that was the system message that it was being deprecated, which is now inaccurate.
To give you guys all the kids out there, all the history on there, you know, way back when we first started building what we called Azure IoT, we first had a SaaS product called Intelligent System Service that was built by the embedded team, actually, at Microsoft. They were kind of going down a track, and then Azure kind of came to life, and then we started stringing. We had event hubs, and then we had some new streaming analytics, and then we had some Azure ML, and they were all brand new, and then there was a tug of war between the Intelligent System Service guys, which was in beta, and they were actively announcing it and everything and had customers using it. And then the Azure guys were like, yeah, but you guys don't really, you're really good at the embedded stuff on the device, but you don't know as much about cloud as we do. And so tug of war ensued, and the Azure people won. And so for a while, we cobbled together something, we just generically called it Azure IoT, but it was like cobbling together event hubs and a database for tracking devices. And it was just a bunch of junk, and customers knew it. And so we worked on this new thing called IoT Hub, which is basically a whole bunch of event hubs hiding underneath the thing, and then a deal to track devices and authentication and all that you were having to roll your own before. So we did that. Customers still said, hey, you're still just kind of stringing stuff together to build a solution. This is crap. And so we built these pre-built solutions for a while. One for remaining useful life, one for streaming. You know, there's a few that we put together. They were cobbling together dynamically on the fly a bunch of services. And so that happened. And then at Microsoft, we acquired an Italian company called Solare, which was a SaaS IoT application, and brought those folks on. And the descendant of Solare is IoT Central. And so that, you know, I know Sam George was a big fan of IoT Central, and I get it. I'm kind of with him. Not everybody was, but I'm a big fan of the easy button and keeping it simple. And I thought people were still, and I see this with AWS as well, IoT, people were having to write too much code and build too much stuff to build their solution. Then I'd hear people say, well, crap, if I'm having to write so much code, why am I using your stuff? I might as well just roll my own. And, you know, there's always the salespeople like, you don't want to roll your own. You want to use our platform. And so IoT Central was kind of the SaaS thing. It descended from the Solare stuff. And we may have some Solare people on our show at some point here who are now at Arduino. So that'll be interesting. But the idea was make it simple, make it stupid easy, point, click, make it happen, you know, instead of having to. And so I thought the thinking was good on that. And that's the kind of the thinking I see with platforms like Clearblade and Losant and some others that are real easy, kind of point and click. But you know what? I don't know if it's just lack of adoption, but what really burns me up is that, you know, Microsoft has arguably one of the best sales forces on the planet. They can get a meeting with anybody, anytime. And I know when this stuff came out, all the sales guys were in there just doing the hard press on customers, on the enterprise customers. This is the future. We are betting, we're investing, we're in it for the long haul. We want you to adopt this. Okay, we trust you. And it's like, then you pull the football away, like Lucy or, Peanuts pulling the football just at the last second. And a lot of people have to just be disillusioned because every time a new thing comes out, the customers get pressed really hard by the sales force. Mm-hmm. And the sales force says everything. So it's a trust problem. I don't know, man. What do you think, Bill?
But this is part of the strategy. So, because so now you lose the trust. Then next week you do a reorg. You fire a lot of these salespeople, and then let the new salespeople introduce themselves. And hey, it's a whole new world out here.
I'm going to clean this up. Yeah. Not that other person. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't just trade outfits and expect a different result. I mean, that's literally what it is, right? I mean, look, I responded to that post, and it's, I don't know, for me, call me an old head, call it what it is. It really doesn't matter. The bottom damn line is any of these CSPs are going to have their own proprietary, hook that's going to get you in there. And if you're an emerging startup or you're a company that's looking to scale or any of those types of things, and you're building your stuff and you build it based on those proprietary services, I mean, you're knowingly walking in locked in, because the amount of work that it's going to take to unplug from that and go over to the next CSP is painful. Right. It's painful, it's expensive, and there's no guarantee. I mean, now you're in an operational conundrum in terms of how do you operate these multiple environments. Right. And so now what happens to your operational model, your cost model? All of these other things are out the window. And then when they decide, you know what, we haven't had the adoption that we thought we were going to have. Sorry, guys, we were wrong. We're unplugging, and you're screwed with a capital F.
Right. Yeah. Although I would want to give Microsoft a little prop. They do have a pretty good sunsetting policy. Like, they have a pretty strict policy of when products get defeatured and put in bug fix mode, and like it's a multi-year thing. So I'll give them some props on that. They don't just go out there and pull the plug. That being said, as Rob said, they do, have the sales team gold on selling it pretty hard. They get a lot of adoption, and then you're stuck with a platform that's not getting new features. And it may still be alive, but now it's becoming less and less competitive relative to other platforms out there. And I think that's a challenge. Like, as Rob said, for a long time, Microsoft was selling chemistry sets, and people didn't want chemistry sets. They wanted the milkshake or whatever. That's a bad metaphor. But, so it's like as a smaller, especially company, you're making these bets, and some of the bets are bets on big companies. Some of them are on smaller companies too, right? For their platforms, and you take these dependencies, and it's like, how do you sort of mitigate that risk over time? It's really challenging when people are changing their plans.
Well, I mean, hindsight is 2020. I'm going to take, since Bill just called himself an old head, I'm going to build on that. He's been here before electricity, so he knows.
Absolutely.
Steam-powered IoT.
Yeah, but because we never disagree. We never disagree here. I'll throw that. It is super easy to say, I'm going to build this on not proprietary X. But the reality is, especially for a startup, that's a risk I'm going to take, because I cannot hire an amount of people today. Right. So I am going to jump on this platform, on this infrastructure, on this whatever that's multi-use, so I can build something and then worry about it later. Now, back to Bill's point, yes, when someone tells you, hey, this is straight up forklift, like you've got, basically, we're going to the dump. We're going to take it, we're just going to dump it, we're going to start from scratch. That's when you have an issue. It's, it's like the economy. Like, if I'm retiring today, and the S&P is good, it's like, okay. But if tomorrow's a bad day, it's like, what the hell's happening? I'm 68 and I'm going to go to the grocery store to bag. So it's honestly, it's an afterthought when you're starting something nowadays, because of the tools that are out there. And maybe the idea is that we've always think of scaling as in how do I multiply this widget? How do I get it into the hands of as many customers as possible? I think part of the scaling conversation is how do I diversify whatever my widget is? And if we're going to stick to cloud, how do I, when I'm building, even though I'm going to select this cloud, how do I think of this architecture that if and when I've done some pre-work to easily go to that cloud or on premises or whatever? And we're going to have to think that way now.
Yeah, I think that's part of best practice, right? These days is having a multi-cloud plan B. I mean, I know a lot of Fortune 50s, Fortune 500s that are actively on 3 clouds. They have an on-prem, they have a AWS, they have an Azure or whatever. They put some workloads on one and some on the other, or they do redundancies. I think anyone in any big company has got to have that kind of strategy these days, especially things like this that happen, and they do happen, and there's rational business reasons. It just reinforces the need to architect for some diversity.
And now that it's, I have to laugh because I'm going to use the word telco and visionary in a single sentence. But the telcos, wait, hold on.
You cannot do that.
Hold on, Rob, hold on, because it's something that P just said. So here's the thing. Most of the big global telcos, and this is like product that are 10 years old, they have done a great job with their multi-cloud strategy. If from a connectivity perspective, to tell an enterprise customer that the multi-cloud, multi-data center infrastructure, that's really there. Now they're not going to see the money. That's monetization is another issue, but the pipes are there, and I think this is going to come back. And so this Microsoft news is good for telco and is good for the sellers that are having this discussion, because you go in as neutral. You're going as like, hey, I'm not pitching your cloud, but here's this infrastructure that it's in the ground, literally, and it could help you diversify now. So telco folks, go tell your friends.
Yeah,
so telco. Prior to any telcos using one of the hyperscale clouds, all of them rolled their own, and they used OpenShift, OpenStack to build their own clouds because they didn't want to take a dependency on these new young whippersnapper hyperscalers that were coming up, because telcos have been here since the dawn of time, and these cloud guys are new to the. I wonder how that's playing out, because I remember all the telcos and Ericsson, they all use these open source cloud solutions, backed by Red Hat or Canonical and folks like that. I don't know how that's played out. There's so much news and hype about telco partnering with AWS or whoever, Is there any on that?
It's a simple flavor. So you have a lot of software-defined networking and a lot of network functions that have been virtualized just to enable the connectivity. Again, now I'm gonna. It's the value is in the diversity of the connectivity, not the destination itself. At least for the telco. But
I know like the Open RAN deployments these days are typically like a Dell Xeon box running Linux and running packet core. Someone's packet core there in a box. It's not in a hyperscaler data center, right? It's on the tower. It's nearby. So I think this actually reinforces the need for more of these kind of distributed data centers and providers that are, not, putting workloads, sure, in Azure, AWS, and all that stuff is great, but also what about Equinix and Vultr and Vapor and all these other folks that have clouds, they're selling cloud capabilities, but they're not in the hyperscaler. And I think you'll see workloads distributed to them, like packet core and things like that, not necessarily all running up. Doesn't all have to be in the cloud of clouds. It can be in the little.
Well, we live long enough to see a telco in the US buy Vapor.
Hey, Verizon bought AOL, so anything can happen. Or what? AT&T bought DirecTV. I mean, that's low-hanging fruit.
But guys, the interesting thing to me is that because it depends on what level in the stack you put your dependency. Because I'm kind of feeling we're having the same conversation I had when I was a young engineer working on the Unix boxes. You had the Unisys Unix, you had the NTT Unix, you had the BSD Unix, and people was figuring out how you port from that to ever. So haven't we realized that, cloud is basically an industrialization that into a data center that is not yours, but the problem is exactly the same. So what is interesting in the business world is that, we build our data dependency at the level of SQL, and then there were different SQL implementation everywhere, and you could to some extent move from one to the other. Now, if you create your IoT dependency so at a level which is not right, so not at the Ubuntu level, but at the level of a service that never becomes a standard, this is where you get a problem. Right. So it's the same problem. That is fascinating. Yeah. So, and by the way, maybe, and that's going to kill me to say that, but maybe that means that the GE approach to take Cloud Foundry as their, foundational element, in the end was not too bad, because it's an open source project, and if somebody decided to kill it, you can even maintain your own implementation. Yeah. So,
well, wasn't it like Basecamp or somebody had a big posting around moving off the cloud and moving back on prem? And I don't know if it's one or the other, but it's there's certainly a lot more on prem. I would call it near prem, multi-tenant near prem. Happening these days. It's a very hot area.
Did you just invent a new word today? Near prem.
Near prem.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
TM. Trademark.
Oh my God, we need to create a magic quadrant for near prem right now.
That's right. No, that's what's happening. And I think the Basecamp folks were like, hey, we're just going to pull off the cloud and kind of own our own destiny. And,
That's right. It's been fun watching him.
But that will, the problem with that is that will force you to go lower in the stack.
Right. And then you have to take all the engineering support.
Yeah, because if you build your stuff on Lambda functions because you want to do serverless, good luck finding that on-prem. So that's the problem. We keep on going back to low in the stack or higher in the stack.
Well, then there's also the CapEx and the hardware too. You have to, and you're going to find some extra H200s lying around to put in your lunchroom. No way. Forget it. So if you want that stuff, you need to go to a cloud.
Dimitri, kind of what you're saying is kind of like Al Pacino would say, they keep pulling me back. It's just, that's crazy stuff.
I think as we said earlier, when you're a starter or you're developing a product, you have to be very careful the level, what dependency level you have. If you're only dependent on Ubuntu, that's great. You can put that onto whatever AI new PC runs and disconnect yourself from the cloud. If you're depending on services which are proprietary and deep down into the stack of those cloud provider, then you have much more. You're betting that they will be successful and they become standard. That's the problem.
I was reading. I read the whole the Basecamp return on investment of moving off the cloud, and something that I think in reading between the lines. So tech aside, economics aside, I think their team was vested in doing this. And I think part of the vision is that because we're going to do this ourselves and we need more people, sounds like their engineers are vested in this journey. It's not it didn't read like a scheme to get off the cloud and then get rid of the engineers, because then it's just going to fall apart. So I don't know how many more of those we'll see. Or how many of the folks like that, I forget the guy's name, I don't know him, will take the time to publish, because I thought it was very detailed. It was, seriously, this journey of how we got off the cloud, where there's savings.
Yeah, it was good marketing.
Yeah. What's that you got there, Rob?
That new toy?
Is that a miniature Pro in a square form?
Ever since, obviously last summer, Intel said no more Nooks from us. But there are a lot of other players out there making little mini PCs. This is B-Link, but there's a bunch of them out there. Mr. Edge Celsior, would be interested in this because, so anyway, that kind of looks kind of that familiar look and feel, like you've seen with the Intel Nook. And again, there's a lot of players in here. Most of them are from China, and it is what it is.
If you don't have RS-232, Bill doesn't want it.
Right.
So,
IoT is not predicated on anything other than what used to be that is still out there.
Ooh, that's like poetry.
Legacy, baby.
Well, as I've told some of you guys, I'm building a distributed edge cloud thingy, And we kind of were, you were talking about how the different telcos were using OpenStack, OpenShift, there's a smaller version of that from Canonical called microcloud. And with microcloud, with as few as 3 nodes, and I have 3 of these, you install, Ubuntu, it doesn't matter which version, desktop server, even their IoT version on your deal. And you have 3 of them. And as long as they're on the same network, you do a Linux command and start pulling down their microcloud. It'll automatically identify your 3 nodes. That's the minimum, and create a cluster. And then it has a whole web dashboard and everything. And you can go in there and it looks like you're in AWS or Azure. Just spin up VMs, allocate storage. So that's the crazy thing I'm working on at my current job. Since we're in that whole weird commercial real estate deal with networks and we're in all these skyscrapers and stuff.
Right.
I'm building a distributed edge.
Well, and you see it, I think Equinix did an announcement the other day with NVIDIA. So semiconductor partners are working with hosting providers to create these clouds that are very almost semiconductor specific.
Yes.
And there's nothing stopping Rob or anyone from buying some kit. I mean, there's a famous case study with Chick-fil-A where they basically, duct tape 3 Intel NUCs together and they created the little server for each Chick-fil-A that they ran the whole operation on. I think 2 of them were working and one was a failover. But, this stuff these days, the silicon's powerful enough. The networks are fast enough.
Yeah.
Where you can bring a lot of this cloud functionality and do back into the closet or the whatever the lunchroom is and, seriously reduce your cloud costs. Yeah.
AMD, that other player out there that's going to try to play catch up with NVIDIA. No, the cool thing is there's been so much news in the last, I'd say, 7 days that's validating the thing that we're already building, that I've been working on. What's the big CDN provider? Akamai. They had a big announcement.
Same thing. Yep.
Where they're going to add, instead of just being a CDN, they're going to do compute and stuff like that. And they've got points of thousands, over 4,000 points of presence and stuff like that.
Yeah.
AI as a service, because it turns out the large language model thing that we all have fun with, a normal company would never put their data in that. They still need to train their own models about their own stuff.
Air Canada, I think, did that. That worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And so since I figured out how to do AI, since I can train models myself, I could provide AI as a service on my distributed edge
for your buildings. Yeah.
In the buildings, or I could open it up to customers from the outside. In fact, I no doubt about it. I was originally thinking this is for tenants in the buildings, but I could also just think of the buildings as it's just a location. It just happens to be.
You just happen to using the power and the connectivity, so you could sell it to the neighborhood as a multi-tenant cloud, for everyone in the neighborhood at a deep discount, right?
Absolutely. So I'm expecting Pete to come help me do all this stuff. Since
sure.
Edge Celsius guy.
We want to know, what is the name of your AI bot going to be? I'm hoping it's like Queso or something.
Ooh. I was going to use something called. There was this name from. Well, did you ever play a video game and there was this one character named Cortana? She was awesome, but
wait, hold on. That was
Katana. Not sure. It might have expired. You should check. Check USPTO on that. It might be available.
Dimitri, are you in Paris?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're near the 10. Yeah.
It's not a fake background. That's a real deal.
No.
It's the real thing. I rented that. I'm in vacation for a week, and I rented that fabulous artist studio just in front of Sacré-Cœur. Now it's Paris, so 6th floor, no elevator. My legs are.
That's a good exercise.
And then it looks like, Marc, you're in a building that's under construction. If I look behind you, it's probably not. It's trying to be cool, but it looks like I'm seeing walls being built.
I'm in a shopping mall.
Oh.
So, yeah. In a restaurant that is still not open, so I'm sitting here.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to challenge you to ask you how are you going to manage host-OS updates? How do you update the operating system when there will be new Linux kernel patches?
With Balena.
I'm going to use this method. The acronym is FIO. Figure it out. And so I know, so there literally is, it's called microcloud, but think of it as a subset of OpenStack or whatever, from a minimum of 3 nodes up to 50 nodes. And then the same remote stuff I can use for Ubuntu Linux. They've got remote monitoring. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I have to figure out that I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. But
you know, Rob, for a small fee, I can handle all of your updates in real time with a cunning use of one of these. Just
These sticks.
and I'll figure it out.
genius.
And very safe and very secure. No worry about that.
Actually, I read an article
Well, but-
that the USB sticks are actually, there's a lot of degradation in USB sticks because they use a lot of parts, memory parts in USB sticks that don't pass quality tests and stuff like that. So they end up, you get sort of the reject memory pieces in your USB sticks. So beware of how long you think that USB stick's going to last, because it probably is pretty disappointing.
Yeah. Oh my
I'm in
God.
Paris, by the way, too. Just
You're in Paris too.
yeah, sure, why not?
Why not?
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to know the number of complaints that we have from people using Etcher, Balena Etcher, flashing operating systems on USB drives or
Yeah?
USB sticks, and complaining like, "Oh, your server destroyed my USB stick."
I wonder if
Sometimes
there's
the answer is what you say. It's like, yeah, maybe buy a better USB.
Spend an extra couple of bucks.
I'm wondering if there's a play for Balena updating microclouds. I'm just making
course.
shit up here. I don't even know.
I don't know. I never played with microclouds, but happy to explore.
We're always happy to explore. We could have if I could get you on a call for an exploratory call, that would be great. Maybe how about next Thursday at 3 p.m.
Up the Calendly link right now.
Yes,
That's
yes.
right.
And even though
I've already
I'm trying
booked
to,
it. It's already in your calendar.
even though I'm trying to get you to do this for me, I actually need you to come to my Calendly and do all the work to make that happen. That's okay, right? Yeah, okay.
You know that it's always a pleasure to give you support, even if you are in a parking lot or whatever you are.
Yes. That's right. Marc helped me out in a Walmart parking lot one time, getting some.
Once a year doesn't harm anyone, right?
That's right. I was using Blues Wireless, trying to get it to upload some stuff to Blues from my car in a Walmart parking lot because there was good signal there, cellular. So
There you go.
While you're in the mode of FIO, make sure that you account for trust, transparency, and provenance.
those are big words there.
I just picked them up right there.
Okay.
They were laying on my desk.
You're laying on your desk. What? Trust? Wait a second. People are just going to be happy to be here.
Yeah. But if it's, I mean, actually, I'm asking you to look at what you're working on, Rob, because I'm interested in this microcloud thing as well. But if you have multiple nodes, depending on how this is designed, you can very well imagine that when there's an OS update, one of the nodes say, hey, you know what, I'm going to update one node, check that the workload works well, and then if it works well, then this node to update the others. So there should be a mechanism or if we believe in those architecture, that might be actually a very interesting thing to look into developing to make sure that you maintain your micro cloud at the right level of security.
Although, Rob, if you get in the neighborhood cloud business, you're going to have to wear the pager and get a call at 2 a.m. because somebody's webcam thing isn't working right. So I don't know if you want to get in the cloud business.
Oh, crap. I just forgot about that part. That means
it's all fun and games until...
But it will be pager 2.0. So you will have a robot in your home that comes to you while you sleep.
That's such an interesting point, because if I go back in time, and I think when Pete and I were at Microsoft and we launched Azure, and there's a lot of people, I want to work in Azure, and they're working on Azure, and they were thinking it's exciting and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, the cloud is actually a managed service. And
24/7.
All of a sudden, it's not Windows Server running in your data center, and it's all on you to figure it out. It's now on me, and all of a sudden, I had guys who basically had the equivalent of pagers. 24/7
running the shift. Yeah.
And so,
I was actually playing a tennis match at the pro club once, and this person, he had to leave in the middle of the match.
Oh man,
he's like, I gotta go. I was like, I won, which is good, but
there you go. you sent a secret message.
That's right. I'm like, email Jason Zander.
There's an outage. There's an outage in Azure. You're going to have to go take care of that.
Sure, Rob, that when you do your network failover and you go from fiber to cellular, that at the same time you don't run like a 3 gig update to the box on your 2 kilobyte plan.
Yes.
Or IoT aggregator platform, because you're going to get a fat bill.
Well, you guys are the smartest people I know. Does this sound crazy to you that I'm going to try to do this? Or is it just like any other thing we do in tech? Awesome. We figure it out, And it's unrelated to IoT. I mean, it's like basically micro data.
I mean, it's edge. It's edge. It's edge compute.
Yeah.
And you're going to have cameras and other things hooked up to it, right? So you're going to do it. I would probably, the only thing is, like, I think there is going to be a proliferation of these kind of micro clouds as offerings. And I think people have to really be thoughtful about how they go to market with that, because, all kidding aside, like we just talked about dependencies, companies taking dependencies on your AMD Ryzen box that you just bought from somewhere, Temu or somewhere.
Yeah, because
Amazon, where all things come from.
I thought you were going to say Temu or something.
No, I didn't. I might as well. Maybe I get a better deal on Temu.
Probably. Shop like a billionaire at Temu.
Shop like a billionaire. Oh my gosh. If I take us all the way back to earlier in the conversation, and Mr. Vasquez will remember this. So we were talking about the whole cloud dependencies, and is it scary? And Pete was saying everybody's going multi-cloud and it's dangerous and everything. David, you might remember we did one of our episodes, I don't know, 1 million years ago, where I talked about how I'm going to rescue all of IoT. And I built the original Thunderstruck platform prior to it pivoting to becoming an agriculture thing. It was actually any device to any platform. And it was crazy. And it had all the security checks, but it also, part of the thinking was, it was multi-cloud. I spent a lot of time to build it. In addition to, I'm like calling up, Eric Simone at Clearblade and calling up my buddies at Losan. I'm calling up everybody. And I'm like, hey, I can route things and dynamically click a button and have IoT device feeds switch from this place to that place. So I also did it for S3 buckets. I did it for Azure Blob Storage. I did it for all these platforms. And so I built all this stuff because the thinking was, we've all seen in the past on Twitter, the intranet of shit. And it talks about when consumer IoTs become bricked, because the platform, the cloud, the whatever that company is depending on went out of business. And all of a sudden, this $400 thing you bought doesn't work anymore.
Right, your thermostat bricks or whatever.
Exactly. So some of my value prop was, no problem. If this guy's going to shut down, I can redirect you to a new host and you can start using that instead. That was a lot of fun back then. I think
but you need a software update for that. And some of the bricks became because of the software update, I remember.
Yeah, true.
That's true.
You're right.
Well, some became a brick because of the software update.
Yeah, true.
That's right.
We've seen lots of phones laying on the ground over the years.
Actually, so the other thing about multi-cloud, this is why I think like orchestration, which we don't have a lot of time to talk about, the idea of orchestration is, hey Marc, is like, that's kind of the center of the universe, right? I think it's like how I stop worrying and learn to love orchestration, because orchestrating workloads across multiple clouds and clouds to edges is going to be fundamental to, mitigating dependencies. And so I love these companies. I mean, there's all the Azure Arc and the kind of hyperscaler ones, but there's also a lot of independent orchestration platforms and folks like Zadata doing things on the edge. And I think there's a lot of action there. And I think a lot of opportunity for folks to come in and help companies mitigate risk by betting on one cloud.
Didn't they just do it good? Was that Series B or Series B?
They just raised like 72 million. So
and all on edge orchestration.
Edge orchestration only, yeah.
Fantastic. That's that kind of money on edge orchestration. Wow.
So it's happening.
But on some of your point, Rob, because I think there's also a very interesting dimension, is the fact that you can actually, at very low cost, kind of scale your compute power under your control. So you're not relying on the cloud service provider. So if you think about it this way, you can actually achieve the idea that there might be some data that you actually never want to have on the cloud. You want to have the complete control. And you might allow some services to run on this data if the service is sent to you and you compute and you inspect the result and then you send the result back. So I guess from a data privacy element, I can very well imagine that we have more and more of those boxes in our homes that are mini cloud in which the very, very personal data stays. And when someone wants to access this data, instead of saying, hey, give me the data, give me an API, I want to suck it out, is no, send me the payload. I run the payload to check the data and you get the answer. You see? So I think it's a very interesting, actually. The evolution here.
Absolutely.
Because we have a problem. My talk in Finland last week was about all the danger of personal data and potentially AI on societies, and the fact that we have those digital twins of ourselves distributed everywhere. We have absolutely no clue, and we are giving the illusion of security with those regulations that talk about consent. But once you've consented to give data, do we have a map of all this data all around us that is owned by anybody? I mean, there are apps on the App Store where they can tell you if you're paying twice for a Netflix subscription, so which means that we don't even know if we have one or two, and we expect people to remember what they consented to do so. So you can very well imagine models where you actually, as I said, control this data, and the workload comes to you, then you are really in control.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
to your point, and to your point on Gen AI, no company is going to let their data go outside. So now you can run that on your 3D little box and specialize your business and run those kind of solutions. So that's a great solution as well.
Ever since I figured out ML.net, I'm golden.
I think, but you don't. But Rob, you know you don't need that at all. You go on ChatGPT, you can create your GPT by just talking to it. Yeah. You don't have to code. You don't have to code anymore. That's actually one of the scary things as well. You don't have to code anymore. Anybody can write those conversational tools without writing any code. You just upload some crappy data that you made yourself or that you get somewhere. It's scary.
I will admit. I mean, I've been more and more using either ChatGPT or I've been, since Microsoft slammed the little Copilot onto the taskbar of Windows 11. I've been using Copilot to solve programming problems. Like when it's something real difficult and you can't figure it out, I start asking it. It doesn't always have the right answer, and I might have to go 3 or 4 times drilling in. The cool thing, though, is I love how it understands the context of the conversation or remembers the context of it, which is really key. I'll say, I want this and does this, and it's not right. It's like, well, actually, I want this iframe to be able to call this iframe hosted by the same page. Prompt. And it figures it out. Not right away, but it figures it out. And it's actually helped me solve a lot of problems. So
it'll remember, like, I'll have a created image and I'll say, well, can I get that in 16 by 9? And then it'll redo it in a different thing. But the question is, when does Copilot start writing its own Copilot? I mean, that's the issue.
Ooh. Well, that's not going to happen. I'll tell you why. Actually, I don't know if you have studied a little bit on how those large language model work. There's a great article from Stefan Wolfram Alpha. You can read that. The thing is, fundamentally, it is extremely effective for problems that you might not have solved yourself, but have been solved by other people and are documented and have been digitized. Wow. And actually, I have a personal example. I have a big birthday this year, so I've started to build a little website with some clues for my friends, and I have a Discord server. And I wanted that every time somebody visits the website, there's a message sent to Discord. And if you want to do that, you need to use async programming in Python, which is not very well known. I mean, I spent a day and a half with ChatGPT trying to find a way to make it work. Never worked. I called a friend, 20 minutes, send me a piece of code that works. So if you are in the universe of things that have been, so for example, for Arduino, it's fantastic. You want to do some stuff on Arduino, you ask ChatGPT, copy paste the code, it runs. It's beautiful.
Right.
I mean, but as soon as you get into a new use case,
anything innovative or novel, it's
exactly. As soon as you get into creativity, I mean, it gives you the illusion of creativity because it generates codes. But the other funny thing I figure out in code, I don't know if you've seen the same thing, Rob, is it has a serious problem with the date format in API codes. because there's so many, you never know if the month is first or if it's the GMT format or if the local format. It messes up the formatting of the daytime things in every API code. That's really funny.
Interesting.
That's a good point. Wow.
Well, it's only as good as the data that it's trained on. And now there's a lot of controversy about, we talked about privacy of data and who's giving permission for that data to be used for LLMs and other things like that. I think that's the big copyright issues going on. So
yeah.
BD.
Yeah,
so as a non-coder, as I tell Rob, I know Python in PowerPoint. Okay. Like I would just read it and sound like excellent. Now, jokes aside, I don't code. I don't have the skill, not my thing. But I do understand that I can do something simple. I can go buy, a dev kit, connect to my local network and use, ChatGPT like, hey, I want to make a video camera, just something super simple. And I get a whole copy paste of code. But, I would love to hear from you guys for my benefit and the benefit of let me see the number. 1.93 billion people that subscribe to this program.
That's amazing.
How would a non-coder know that the code that I'm copying pasting is just what I wanted to do? I have a little box. I want to do a little IoT project versus something that might bite me in the butt later. Seriously, how would I know? I
wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. You're right. Yeah. One minute you think you're writing the right code, next thing you're playing a game of thermonuclear war. It could happen.
But I do believe that over time, actually, the large language model will probably actually not require you to put any code. You will just explain with plain language. As soon as we can start connecting to the physical world, you just express what you want to do, and you will do it for you. So and that's to me, that's the danger of LLMs. Is that it allows you to do a number of the kind of deductible things without having to be a data scientist or coding. It's an issue. So
prompt engineering. That's the new engineering discipline.
Yeah, but by the way, I'll send you the link and you put it into the notes as well, because what is also important to understand is those large language models do not actually iterate on things. It's a neural network and it propagates in the network. So if you type a prompt, please go look on the internet, check this article, combine it with this, combine it with that, it's going to give you an answer, but it's not doing that. It has no capacity to do computation or iteration. So it's important to understand how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Point.
Wow. So
Rob, check this code. Tell me if that's it. I don't want to launch a nuclear warhead anywhere.
Right.
You need another LLM to check the other LLMs work, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
what's the Spider-Man meme?
We could create the Rob GPT, where we take everything that Rob ever published, and actually we publish quite a lot on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and add that to ChatGPT and create a GPT of Rob, and then we have Rob we can talk to.
Wow.
I mean, it is possible. That would be an interesting experiment to you, Rob. Take everything you published and go on ChatGPT, say create a new GPT, and said, I want to create something that represents what I said in the past. Here is all the data I posted on LinkedIn, on Twitter.
Is this how we get to live forever?
Yeah.
Kind of eternal, like exactly. Everything that was...
Yeah.
It would be crazy that after you do the mashup, you create like a pixel out of each thing that you publish. And when we zoom out above the atmospheric layer, it looks like Eddie Van Halen.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Wow. All right.
That's an interesting POC. We'll work on that.
We have arrived at the end of our show, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for joining us. I know you got so much deep knowledge from this, especially from Dimitri there, Sacré-Cœur, drinking some champagne,
I saw that. Champagne, some Prosecco.
Some people get to visit.
I mean, France, it's champagne.
Champagne. Some people get to visit Paris. Some people get to go to Sacré-Cœur. Other people, like your typical American, the last time they saw Sacré-Cœur was in John Wick 4, when they're having the gun shootout going up those stairs that go on forever. It's like, dude, take the funicular, okay? But no, we got to shoot, and then roll all the way down, and then start over again. But I think that's a great scene to have a shootout, a duel. It's right there in front of the.
That's your homework right there. Go see that.
But the funicular was on strike. So.
Of course, it's France. It's on strike. Yeah, of course. The yellow jackets or whatever those guys, they're wearing their vests and everything like that. Okay.
The agriculture is down.
Okay, I gotcha. So thank you for joining us on IoT Coffee Talk. Lots of fun stuff we talked about today. Check us out on the YouTubes if you want to see our beautiful faces. Check us out also anywhere where you get your podcasts. We are closing in on a big milestone podcast-wise. I think in the next week we'll have something to share there, which is pretty exciting for us.
There we go.
So people might like our voices better than our faces. Bunch of faces made for radio here. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And make sure to support Elevate Our Kids. Go to elevateourkids.org, and support all these kids bridging digital divide, getting computers and internet access to underserved, under-resourced families and kids so that they learn too. And we are out of here. Adios.
Bye-bye. Au revoir.